Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dragon Age 2 wrap-up. So, if you're in the future, do we have jetpacks yet? That's an important question. But if you're in the future and you're not watching these as they're being uploaded, and you're watching in the playlist, you're probably wondering what happened to the end of Dragon Age 2, and the answer is a virus blew up my computer. Well, not literally, but it broke all my files, it broke my save games, it broke my videos, which meant that you miss me ranting about Orsino. Um, I'll show you that not all mages in the Circle of Blood mages by using blood magic! Yes, so you'll have missed that. You'll have also missed Dragon Age Last Court. As with Dragon Age Origins, I'm just going to go through the choices I made, and you'll notice this is a lot shorter. There's a lot less going on here, and I'll go through what happened in Dragon Age Last Court. Before then, I'll do like my little thoughts kind of thing. Normally, I'd do it over the credits. So, it's not Dragon Age Origins, and that you can pretty much sum up everything with it's not Dragon Age Origins. I think it's kind of received wisdom that Dragon Age 2 is terrible, and some people have been saying that without actually having that, without actually. Come on, brain, you knew what you were talking about a moment ago. Without necessarily having played it as much, because if you compare it to Dragon Age Origins, yeah, it is a lesser game. Well, sorry, no, I take that back. It's mechanically better. The combat is tighter. It is better. It seems like I had more control over the combat, but the world is less logically coherent. Orsino, and the story isn't as big and epic in scope. And the problem with that is I think most BioWare fans, and certainly most Dragon Age fans, are more narratological than ludological. So having an improved mechanism behind the game doesn't impress as much when you're sacrificing or when you're losing out the game for that. So I think that's part of the problem with it, is they sacrifice, is maybe not sacrifice, well yes, let's go with sacrifice, or we lost the story elements and gained mechanically, and for me that's not something I'm necessarily bothered with. I managed to struggle through all of the combat in Dragon Age Origins, and only got angry some of the time. So there's that. It's not Dragon Age Origins. I think if this had come out first, I don't think people would have been as upset. I think the principal bother is that it came out after Origins, which was this big, massive game, and so it just didn't feel as good, and it didn't feel as big because it wasn't. I think that's it, really, for my views of this game. As with the other games, I will think about the companions, but I'll do that when we when we go into the companion section. But we will do that last. So our hero was a fellow called Sparrowhawk. He was a mage. If anyone's wondering, he was named after the protagonist of the Wizard of Earthsea stories. I've got the Earthsea Quartet, but I think Ursula Le Guin did more of those. Very, very enjoyable. I quite like them. He was a mage, and that will play into some of the further decisions we made. He was very diplomatic. He tried to avoid combat, because like me, he was conflict averse. Averse? Yes, I can English. So we tried to talk our way out of combat. We didn't want to kind of get involved, and not that there's much choice in this game. We didn't want to kind of push people away. We were kind of friendly with almost everyone, looking at you, Carver. So, yes. I don't know what else to say about that. The prologue. Did we side with the smugglers or the mercenaries? We sided with the mercenaries, because the mission for the smugglers involved, I think you had to pick a lock, and we didn't have any characters who could pick a lock, so we ended up going with the mercenaries, because that was the only option we could do. Hooray for choices. We convinced the Templars to leave. There were a group of mages in the cave, and we managed to convince the Templars that they had gone. So we managed to get them to leave. We didn't get them into a fight. This is the thing, actually. This is connected over here. I don't know why they're so separate. We'll get to that in a moment. There was some slightly complicated illicit cargo for Martin, and he was going to set us up a shop and give us a discount, and I haven't the foggiest where his shop was. Yay! I think we did that because it was his, and we didn't really care about the laws of the city in some regard. I think I see Sparrowhawk as chaotic good, where Gaheris is probably more neutral good. Possibly. It'll be interesting to kind of see where my Dragon Age Inquisition character comes. Kelder. He was the magistrate's son, and the magistrate had sent us to go and get this guy so he could face justice. He was going around killing people. I don't know if he was... and I don't think this is answered, whether he was mentally ill or whether he was demon-possessed. Which I think is quite interesting. The fact that that's kind of left as a kind of... but Sparrowhawk killed him so that he would face justice for what he'd done, because he wouldn't face justice if we took him back to the magistrate. And we did kind of antagonize him there, so... but it was justice rather than mercy, which is probably a point we'll get to later. Seamus, so he was... he had gone off with the Qunari, with a Qunari, because he was going to join the Qun, which he did in Act 2. The Viscount wanted us to go and get him, so we did. Facing against Jinnis? Yeah, we'll go with that. I can't remember. Who was a mercenary who was very happy to take in Seamus dead rather than alive. So we had to kill her to get Seamus. Danzig. Connected with this quest. Danzig was a mage who was working with the Slavers. So we killed him to get to the Slavers so that we could save Fainril. Though apparently that wasn't necessary. I occasionally have the little flick through the decisions. Apparently that wasn't necessary to do, so I don't know if we... Maybe we followed a lead that we didn't need to get to Fainril, and so we ended up killing him, whereas otherwise we could have just left him alone. I don't know. Ghislaine's wife was killed by this weird person, I think, who beheaded Leandra because of her face. We told him that she'd been murdered. I think the reasoning behind that was because then he would know and could tell other people so that they wouldn't suspect him of getting rid of her for some reason. I think that was my logic. I can't exactly remember. We solved the mystery of the miners. They were being killed by a dragon. Rare dragons. And we killed the dragon. And the other dragon. And the other dragon. And the other dragon. And all the dragons. So that we could protect them. And I think we got a share of the mine in Act 1. And then we got the rest of it in Act 3. But apparently it wasn't going to be profitable. So, right, we found Fainril, and we had the choice of sending him to the Circle or sending him to the Dalish, and Sparrowhawk, because the Hawks are apostates and not too fussed about the Circle, I think he thought that Fainril would be better off with the Dalish. Whereas with, I think it was just kind of, I think maybe it was just suspicion over the Circle and the Templars. So he decided to send Fainreal on. I think Fainreal had already run away from the Circle anyway, so he shouldn't be forced to go back. Again, going to that kind of chaotic side of the alignment divide. Now, while we were there, we found out about Sir Thrask's sister, who was an apostate. I think she'd run away. Was she the? I think she was the one who turned into an abomination because she was being pushed by the slavers, which is an interesting little story kind of bit that comes in and then in again and again. Is the Templars push the mages? The mages react because they're being pushed. And often it's Blood Mage, or they become an abomination, or something like that. And then the Templars use that as an excuse to oppress the mages more. In this case, we decided not to blackmail Sir Thrask. I think part of it was we wanted him to be friendly. He was a Templar. We were an apostate. We probably still are. And so we wanted to have a friendly ear inside the Templars. Right, so this was Templars were going missing. Iduna was doing something with that, and she tried to make Sparrowhawk kill himself, but as a powerful mage we managed to stop ourselves from doing it, and we showed her mercy. I'm not entirely sure why. I think it was just, if in general I don't like killing people, and I think that's part of why that was. Kieran, he was clean of any possession, or any kind of blood mage or demonic possession, so we told Cullen that, and he needed the job, so we kind of pushed that through. Karis, alive and well. He was one of the fellows, one of these Templars that we convinced to leave. Now, we had the option of pressing the right button. We had the option of going after him and killing him, but I decided against that because, again, don't really want to kill people. But it'd probably also be quite suspicious. Oh, the guy we sent to find these mages hasn't come back. Maybe there's something to do with mages. Kotogen, we defended him from the Qunari, and that was another kind of element of wanting to protect mages and not wanting to see them be oppressed. We didn't hand him over. I think we also kind of said, mages aren't terrifying. Look at Merrill. Is she really that terrifying? No, she isn't. And they were like, "You're mages!" And then attacked us. So I'm not entirely sure we defended Kotogen, we more defended ourselves, and in the process defended Kotogen, who then, through the power of his own magic, decided to self-immolate. There are better ways of going. But hey, we did that. And then we went down into the deep roads, and things happened that will be resolved in the companion section. We came back, it was, 3 years later? Let's just, right, I'm not entirely sure there's a sensible order to this, is there? We didn't kill Gasgard, so he was looking for the person who killed, Leandra. He was looking himself. I can't remember if he told us why. Was it because it must have been because someone he knew, had been killed. But although some of his methods were a bit weird, we decided not to do anything about it because, he was looking for the same person we were. Maybe that would provide us a bit of information. Maybe that would mean that we'd get closer to Leandra, more likely to save her. Unfortunately, not. Hubert, the principal owner of the mine, his caravans were being looted, so he went and found them. And it was Brekka, who was a member of the Coterie. We'll go with that. And we managed to stop that. We managed to work out what was going on. Javaris, who was the fellow who tried to steal the gunpowder, which is why we killed some Talvashoth in Act 1. He accidentally stole some poison gas. We let him live, and we protected him while people were trying to kill him, so that he wouldn't tell us that he had taken the poison gas and sold it on. No, that he'd hired someone to steal it, and they'd stolen poison gas instead, and then poisoned Lowtown. I'm confused already. I can't remember exactly what happened, but we didn't. We made sure he was alive. That's what happened. We didn't encounter Yevon. I had a little flick through, and the only time you can encounter Yevon is if Nathaniel's already dead, and he's not dead. We'll discuss that later. We didn't encounter Lieutenant Harley, and we just missed this person. Him, her. Fainreal, he was kind of having his dreams. We freed him and sent him off to Tevinter. We didn't let any of the demons control him. We managed to fight them all off. We didn't make him tranquil, which I think is the third option. We made sure he was safe, and he went off to Tevinter to learn somewhere where he'd be safe. Varnal and Patrice wanted us to side against the Qunari. We didn't. I think we kind of got on with the Arishok in a strange way. Not entirely sure why, but we did. So we didn't want to and we didn't want to aggravate the Qunari. That would have been quite worrisome, quite bad. Could have set off a massive war zone, which kind of happened anyway. But we didn't want to side with these. We didn't want to start it off. We killed the Arishok. I'm not sure if there's something I missed about not killing him, other than handing over Isabella. There's probably some other options, but he couldn't leave without Isabella. We wouldn't hand Isabella over, so he offered us the only way out that we both had to preserve our honor. His honor in not being able to leave without Isabella, and not wanting to stay, and our honor in not handing over Isabella, which was a duel to the death between the two of us. Yes, that's kind of it. We won, obviously, by progressing to Act 3. A few years later, Meredith has gone completely and utterly bonkers, and has done a lot of things have happened. We were approached, I think, by a group of people who were looking for a horrible assassin named Zevran, insert surname here, and they were led by a fellow called Nuncio. We decided to help him. We didn't want an assassin around our town, but when we found out it was Zevran and that he had deliberately gone somewhere so that the Dalish elves were safe, we kind of took a bit of a liking to him, and we turned on these guys who were actually Antivan crows who were trying to kill Zevran because he had been an Antivan crow but wasn't, because origins. Next thing we did, we went to find Nathaniel, because he's not dead. And we rescued him from the deep roads, and we met Carver. Again. He wasn't that grumpy this time, I don't think, if memory serves. But yeah, so we saved Nathaniel, who, similar to Enders, slightly off. It's something that I notice, and I hope isn't true in Inquisition, but characters seem to be different from one game to another. It may be some problem with writing, I don't know. We didn't help Uncle Gamlin. I didn't realise he needed help. Whatever. We killed the dragon at the Bone Pit. There was a big scary dragon in the Bone Pit at the mines, and we killed it. And then Hubert was like, "It's not going to make me any money." So then we took the entire mine, and now Hawk owns probably quite a bit around Kirkwall, land-wise. Though I don't know how profitable the mines would be. But then again, it is me. There's probably a lot of money to spare. Meredith sent us to find some blood mages, two of whom had gone completely and utterly nuts, and one of whom was Emil, who was trying to sound dangerous and seductive and suave by pretending he was a blood mage. It's almost as logical as Orsino. And so we let him go because he wasn't really a threat. He wasn't really a blood mage. So we just let him go and told Meredith he was dead. Orsino then contacted us about a group of conspirators, one of whom was Kieran, who had been a Templar. We let Kieran go because he hadn't really done anything wrong, and he had warned us. And in a way, we agreed with the conspirators anyway. They were just attacking us because, I don't know, it's a video game. Probably. That's probably the reason. But Kieran, he then warned us that someone had been captured, who was Carver, who'd been put to sleep by Blood Mage, and then had to be woken up by a Blood Mage, because that Blood Mage wasn't evil, because blood magic isn't always evil. Sparrowhawk, stop saying it's evil! Sorry. That bugged me. So we let him go, because he wasn't really a threat to anyone. We then went to Orsino and said, Orsino, here are the conspirators, here are the names, da-da-da-da-da. Apparently we could have told Meredith. I didn't realise that was an option at the time, but I still would have picked Orsino anyway. So I didn't make a wrong choice based on a misunderstanding of the game. And of course, we sided with the mages. I mean, I could have thrown that. I could have thrown a curveball and just sided with the Templars at the end. But we stuck with the mages. Meredith had gone completely and utterly bonkers, which makes sense. Which means that the kind of final... I assume she's the complete final boss. Always the final boss. That makes sense. She goes completely bonkers. She accuses everyone of being evil and turns on you if you sided with the Templars. Orsino, if you've sided with the Templars, you're pushing in. He, in one last act of desperation, takes to blood magic and turns himself into one of those horrible worm-like harvester things that made me quit Golems of Angarak. When you side with mages, it's like, hey, you're sided with us. I know what I'll do. I'll turn into a horrible monster and try and kill you. I'm just ranting about Orsino at this point. So yes, we sided with the mages, and we got our way through it. Now, of course, before that point, we had gone to Legacy. So we found all the bits of Malcolm's will. We killed all of my brain just wandered off to Kyrandia. I wonder if this is the same Malcolm who is the strange, weird jester from the Legend of Kyrandia, Book 1. If you don't know who that is, watch it. He's awesome. He's probably one of my favourite villains. But we got all the elements of Malcolm's will. We saw it all. And Larius, we'll go with Larius. We sided with him over Janica. His plan was, let's release the thing to kill it. Her plan was, let's release the thing to try and control it. You think no one's thought about controlling this thing? This thing that can control people with the blight? This is the elusive man all over again, guys. I can control the thing that is possibly controlling me and potentially control other things. This is getting paradoxical and weird. So we sided with Larius, because his plan made something resembling sense. Kind of, possibly. Right. So, companions. Let's do my standard rundown. Let's run across, if I can remember where they stood. Fenris. Fenris. I hate mages. Oh, you're a mage. I don't hate you, but I hate all mages. Yeah, we didn't use Fenris much for that reason. He's very grouchy and grumpy and doesn't like people. I can't think of anyone else. Okay, I'm getting lost in the row. Oh, that's frustrating. I could do character classes, of course. Warriors, that's Fenris, Carver, Carver didn't appear that much. He was in like I think he was in the first act, and then Deep Roads, and then disappeared, and then popped up again in DLC, which seems really weird. And he'd pop up occasionally, which I did quite like. He came back like with the Grey Wardens, and then so the Grey Wardens turned up at the end of in the middle of Act 2 for some reason, and Carver came back for some reason at the end of Act 3. I don't know. But he was around in Legacy, which kind of makes sense, because we went to a Grey Warden prison, and of course, he's our brother, he's getting attacked in this. And that kind of makes sense. My apologies. Aveline, who I really quite liked as a lawful good character. She was actually kind of lawful good. She cared about the people around her. She cared about the people she was in charge of. She tried to do what was right. And sometimes that meant she clashed with people. But, and I think this is kind of where the good part, rather than being lawful neutral, came out, she didn't kind of lord it over them. She was very much kind of caring. Like, there was that little scene at the end where she's joking with Isabella. Which is kind of seemed a little kind of wait what, but it's kind of she is quite friendly. One thing I really liked is she's probably the closest female character to Hawke through this time, especially to Sparrowhawk, being a mage and getting Carver. And yet that relationship never veers into romance, which I do quite like, from a narrative perspective. So I do really appreciate that just because she's a female character who you're close to doesn't go, oh, you're going to romance. Speaking of someone who tries to be lawful good, Sebastian, Mr. Lawful Grumpy, who lawful indecisive, maybe. I want to rule. I want to be in the Chantry. I want to rule. I want to be in the Chantry. I want to complain a lot. I don't know why they put him in. I think he's a bit of DLC, and I don't know why. Why is he a thing? I don't know. It doesn't. There are a few parts I quite liked his story. But I mean, that could have just been a bit of DLC. Just like have a... Well, okay, it was DLC. But a DLC thing like the others, like here you're going out on a mission to fight for this prince. He was really... He sometimes came across as quite grumpy and grr and whiny and grr. Wasn't a huge fan of him. You can tell by how little I used him. I think he was probably my least used of the kind of proper companions. I think they're all the warriors. Fighters. Rogues! I think there's only the two of them, isn't there? Yes, there's only the two rogues. Isabella and Varric. So, Isabella... Come on, Brain. Can you not describe Isabella? I think she's a very Wordington word. Varric is a rather interesting character. I'll try and get back to Isabella later. Varric was a very good character, I think. He was friendly to pretty much everyone. There never seemed to be any kind of arguments that were serious arguments. Like, there'd occasionally be a little kind of silly jab where he's kind of having a bit of a joke at their expense. But it was in fun. He was a good friend to Hawke, and I think he tried to be a good friend to everyone. Whereas I think some of the others were kind of argumentative and had a great deal of conflict, Fenris and Meryl never seem to really get on. There are a few points where Fenris is like, "We have nothing in common." Um, he's probably my second least favorite. And so I think Varric is a very interesting character from that perspective, just in comparison to a load of others. And I think it's clear to see he's kind of the Garrus of the group, to reference Mass Effect. He's the principal friend of the protagonist. He's the guy that the protagonist trusts, and if he's struggling with anything, he's probably the guy the protagonist would go to. And I think that's kind of one of the issues of having kind of this 7-year period spread over a 40-50 hour game, is you're not seeing those kind of personal moments that you did get in the Mass Effect series. Alright, let's have another go describing Isabella using these things called words. She's very different to Aveline. And I think she's, to begin with, very much out for herself. She wants to do her own thing. She sees profit in working with Hawke to begin with. You're going into the deep roads. Maybe she can get something out of that, as long as she's not busy doing her own thing. However, getting to Act 2, getting to the end, she chooses to come back with Tome, or she did in this playthrough. And I think it's that kind of, she's not gaining anything from this. And I think there seems to be that kind of shift in personality, almost like a little bit of an arc to her. Which, I'm going to complain about him again, Fenris doesn't have, because Fenris still doesn't care about mages, even though at the end you've worked with him, you've fought with him, even if you've done his quests as we did, he still hates mages. He's not a fan of mages. He immediately sided with Meredith. Pretty much. Isabella has that arc where she kind of drifts to, she's doing things because it's right. She jokes about the fact she's going to sail away and leave Kirkwall. And when she gets her own ship, she stays. Not seen in this Let's Play, but kind of at the end when you're in kind of the in the circle area, Sparrowhawk said, "You don't need to be here. You don't have to be here." And she said, "If I didn't want to be, I wouldn't be here." And I like that kind of shift in, almost kind of it is a character arc. It is a kind of, she's kind of changed. Something's, whether it's kind of a latent, dormant character trait that's kind of become prominent. That's quite interesting, and I do quite like that. I don't think there's many others that actually have that kind of character development. Yeah, they have stories. They will have stories. But I don't think there's a character like Isabella in that regard of that kind of sensible character shift. Looking at you, well, yeah, I think that's all as everyone, isn't it? Mages. Speaking of sensible character development, or lack thereof, Anders. And my not too subtle reference back with Nathaniel. Again, they seem to, when they take a character from one game to another, they did it with Ogryn. His character was different and not as likable, in my view. Dragon Age 2, they take Anders, bring him into Dragon Age 2, and he's not as likable. I mean, there is kind of an in-world explanation, which is better than with Ogryn, where he's kind of merging with Justice, and their personalities are kind of merging, kind of ish. But then Justice pops out in Legacy, which you can play at any point. So I don't know. So they're not merged, they're still distinct. Then how do you know who you're dealing with? Because there's a few points where characters referenced it. Oh, Varric, that was in Legacy as well. It's like, oh, Justice, you're boring. Let Anders come out. So there seems to be this kind of sometimes Justice is in control, sometimes Anders is in control. I think I'd prefer an idea of that. And another thing I referenced before is the difference between Justice and Mercy. And I think that would have been an interesting little avenue to explore that never really came up. Because Justice doesn't have mercy. He's Judge Dredd, isn't he? Like, you called me a demon, sentence is death. He's you work with people who hate mages. Your sentence is death. Because that's what the bomb was at the end. Just how is that just? Alright. Meryl. Meryl is a character I romanced, as you can tell. She had a Welsh accent and was a somewhat broken person. Therefore, that's what I look for, apparently. Having look at the visual novels I did. Birds of a feather, etc. So, she didn't really have a character development. She kind of had little bits of her story explored, like she dealt with a demon. That's kind of revealed in Act 3, to try and fix the Eluvian. We'll get to fixing the Eluvian later. Hint. So, as a character, I think she's probably pulling its Sparrowhawk one way, and I think, which is kind of down that route of using blood magic, using magic that makes things easier and whatever. In contrast to Aveline, who's very much kind of leading him to more trying to pull him in a more kind of lawful good direction. I think that it would have been nice. Like, Varric warns you, says she's crazy, and not a good kind of crazy. Be careful. I think I would have liked that to have been more explored, and I think in a way that's kind of what a lot of this game is I'd love to see more of that. Explore this kind of avenue. One of my frustrations is you've got these 3 acts. I'm going back to reviewing the game at this point. You've got these 3 acts, and it feels like these are 3 ideas for a game. You've got Act 1, and this isn't really a relevant idea. This is, it's the deep roads that... Okay, the deep roads aren't illustrated, but the deep roads leading up to that come on, brain. Expedition. There we go, thank you. That's Act 1. That could be its own kind of game-ish. Act 2, leading up to the Qunari fight, all that kind of tension and the political issues going on. That could be its own game. Act 3, leading up to the Mage Templar War, which I suspect is Dragon Age Inquisition. That could be... That could be its own game, just leading up to that, and then the war sparks, the war starts off. But they couldn't think of ways to pad them out, so they kind of stitched them together, which is not something I'm a fan of. Right, choices with the companions. We romanced Meryl. That's already been discussed. Bethany died while escaping Lothering. No real choice there. Bethany did not live to see the Mage Templar War. Carver became a Grey Warden because Anders knew where the Grey Wardens were. Or maybe Justice, I don't know. Anders knew where the Grey Wardens would be. So he became a Grey Warden rather than die. We were friends with Varric rather than rivals. As previously mentioned, I was friends with pretty much everyone. We advised Varric not to kill Bartrand. He was his brother, and again, don't like killing people. Varric asked us to look into the house to try and find the cause of the haunting. And And we did. We managed to find what was going on. There was floating furniture and floating pots. So, kind of Ocean House Hotel crossed with Alan Wake, minus jumping off cliffs. We told Varric not to keep the Red Lyrium idle because, oh my goodness, it drove Bartrand insane, was already sending Varric insane, and Meredith with her sword. Okay, we didn't know that at the time, but Meredith with her sword, oh my goodness, quite bonkers. How far over does this go? We recruited Isabella because I recruit everyone, it's what I do. We worked with Isabella, we were friends with her, and she decided to come back with the tome and give it back to the Arashok, who demanded Isabella, but we didn't hand it over, again, because we're friends, and we're nice like that, which led to us having a duel with the Arashok. Although I suspect you'd have to duel the Arashok anyway, because otherwise that's a very anticlimactic thing. Here's Isabella, end of act. Doesn't sound like a great way of playing, does it? Fenris. In the end, Fenris sided with Meredith, but we got to the gallows, and he storms in. He's like, "How can you side with them?" And then how could you? And then because he was instinctively against the mages, but the underlying reason why he was against the mages is because he's against the Tevinter Imperium, where mages are the oppressors. So we kind of mentioned the fact that the Templars are oppressing not just the mages, but kind of everyone in Kirkwall. So he sided with us, and I assume we would have fought him then, and so we didn't have to kill him, which is a good thing. Meryl stayed with us. We got her to stay. She's alive and well. This is a similar thing with Fenris. Oh, okay. So maybe if we sided with the Templars, it would have been an issue with Meryl. Okay. Meryl did not destroy the Alluvien. We got her to keep it and try and keep working on it. And her clan wasn't killed. I suspect that's what would have happened on the way out from the Keeper. If I'd said something different, then maybe we would have had to fight the clan, fight them, and then I assume they would have died. Eep. Anders, he's alive and well because we didn't execute him at the end, but of course we didn't approve him blowing up a church. Justice. I mean, many of the points I think other people raise around that, as in characters, is that innocents will have been killed. And justice is kind of like, I don't care. That's not justice, that's extremism. I'm not sure why they put that in. It just seems really weird for a spirit of justice to do that and still think of itself as justice. I don't know. Aveline stayed with Hawke. I'm not even sure if there's a point where she leaves. Maybe if we don't help her with some of the things to do with her being the captain. Aveline married Donnic. We helped with that. Yay. We recruited Sebastian. I've complained about him enough. Talus, who is better than What's-Her-Face from Mass Effect 3, Diana Arles. Probably because Felicia Day is actually an actress. I mean, who would have thought that professional actors and actresses would have been better at acting than people who aren't trained at all? We didn't make Talus angry. Again, diplomatic, conflict-averse. And we didn't kiss Talus. We flirted enough with her. So that's a thing. I didn't think that was a thing. So, yes. Those are all the companions. Those are all the choices I made, kind of speeding through it. Right, other thing to talk about, The Last Court. Let's do a mini review of that. Yes, that's me. I'm Dragons16. Thank you. Dragon Age: The Last Court. I'm not gonna play through this at this point. I played as Madeleine de Sorol. I played as a female character because I don't normally do that. So this game, it's a bit odd, or it's not really a Dragon Age game if you think of the Dragon Age kind of structure to it of combat and RPGs and stuff. It's more kind of, in a way, it's got elements of a choose your own adventure game to it. So you'll kind of draw three cards and you'll play them, and they'll lead you on little stories, and these kind of stats will change. Rumors of Revolution will go up and down. Twilight will go up and down. Peril goes up and down. So that is Perils. It's kind of, well, it says there, Pirates and Rebels. Are they, is like, how active are pirates and brigands and bandits and whatever. Twilight is how worried people are about magic. Rumors of Revolution is kind of like, how close are people to talking about revolution? Are they in open revolt, or is it very quiet? Prosperity is how wealthy your realm, how wealthy Serol is, because you are the lord or lady, as we're the huntress, who is female. Serol is the realm we're in charge of. Freedom, how tolerant people are. I'm not sure tolerance is the right word, but how free, how equal people are, how fair we are we oppressive or not. And dignity, which is kind of how prestigious is our position, how much honor does it seem like we have. And there are a variety of skills we have, and we have some health. So all of these are used in different skill checks. I probably should have worked on getting them a little bit higher, because every so often you'll need to take skill check in one of the cards, normally towards the end, and that will affect how these change. So it might be that these three go up and one of these goes down, or one of these goes up, but if you fail, one of these goes up as well. Or it might be you lose one of these to put one of the others up, but if you fail, you don't get as much going up. There's various items you need, for example, clues, money, variety of other... What on earth is that? Ah, yes. So, I played through this, and you get a few random bits of story. So, Flames of Freedom... so, I think that was when my Rumors of Revolution was too high. Someone turned up trying to convince people to rebel and fight against nobility. That's the elusive Iconoclast. Her story kind of disappeared for some reason. Carver Hawk, or someone claiming to be Carver Hawk, showed up. This is one of the sad parts, is it doesn't track your keep. So it didn't actually know that he was a Grey Warden. It actually asked me if he was, what he was. So I said he was a Grey Warden because he was in our story. He was in Dragon Age 2. The Divine's Favour. So the Divine is coming. And there's someone called The Shame who has brought shame to Serol, and hence the shame of Serol. And the Divine has come. She's the first in many, 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 many years. She's going to a peace thing, which I think is something to do with Inquisition. And she's passing through Serol. She's going to stay. She invites herself to a grand banquet that you're going to pay for. And so that leads up to... So that's what this is leading up to. You're trying to impress her to get... to have that shame removed. To have Serol's honor back. So, a few little bits about what happened. The Hunter's Protection. The Hunter's my bodyguard. The Seneschal's my counselor. The Bard is my lover. I'm Milady. My opinion of the shame is ambiguous, I think, because my other options were not so good. I got Serol's honor back. Yes, I managed to convince the Divine that we weren't so bad. The Scornful Sorceress, also known as Morrigan. Fairly sure. It's mentioned, I think a few times it was mentioned, but I can't remember where it was. She showed us the Alluvien she had been repairing in our glassworks. Serol, famed for its glassworks. If I'd managed to get this a wee bit higher, then we would have had this massive commission for the Grand Cathedral in Val-Royeaux and doing all the stained glass, I suspect. The Kindly Knight set up a freehold so the peasants could do whatever they want. I stepped in and stopped that. I think it was because the other option was to get one of my stats down to 0, which I really didn't want. The Dowager's Fury. The Dowager brought some peasants who pelted her with dung before us for judgment, and freedom was really low, so I had to kind of let them off. The Horned Knight. He is the king of the wood, and other such nonsense. We had a few issues with him that you would have seen had I managed to record things, or had I not lost it. And he says he's going to bring a gift to the divine. Well, not exactly, but whatever. He brings you a gift and says, "I wish to present it before the divine." You're like, "No," and then I said, "Let me see it first." And it was a Chantry sister who had been turned into a garden. Yes, it's weird. So, that didn't go to the divine. I think we gave it. We gave her. Sorry, we gave the living garden thing. Ugh. We gave the Chantry sister to the Chantry. Is just like, can you undo this and make her human again? That'd be great. The missing bard. So the king of the forest tried to take the bard, and we brought him back. So the other option would be to talk with him and share him, but we didn't have enough options for that when I played through. The Abbess's Road wanted to go through his forest. We made a deal with him, and his son, a deer. His dear son was killed by a poacher, and we handed over the poacher to the Lord of the Forest, which may not have been a great thing, but yeep. And because yes, it was in this order, wasn't it? I don't know why they've done it like this. Oh, maybe they have. But there were some siblings who had run away to the forest that we tried to reclaim, so that's why we did this. Did it like this, because we kind of owed him a deal. So we also got the Glass-Antlered Mask of Sorol, which is a very fancy mask, I assume. And it was something we earned from the divine, and we got the keys to the Chantry. Now, the Chantry had been locked and sealed, so that the shame and no one else would be able to go in. But we got given the keys again, so. And we have the Dowager's Gratitude for some reason. And we have a few random favours and provisions and elf fruit. And yeah, so some of our stats got boosted because of these items, which is a bit weird because that was the end of the game. So those are the decisions I made in the last court, my little review of it. It's I'm not going to play it again. It's in theory, I could just let's play it again, but it wasn't that interesting. I've played it through once. I'm happy with that. So there we go. That's getting us up to speed for Inquisition. So there we go. I don't think I've missed anything. So yeah, we'll call it there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching.